The Rolls-Royce Wraith is today on Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars. The special luxury episode with me, with Thomas, and we'll give you a basic overview of the Rolls-Royce models, just how you know which one is this then of all the models they have. They don't have too much, but at least a lot of different versions. And we're going to give you an extensive overview of the exterior features, the interior, all the luxury inside, and of course, how does this Wraith actually drive? So let's get started with this special luxury episode. So to give you a basic overview of the model lineup, there's the Phantom, that's the really huge saloon. It's almost 6 meters in length, not quite. And this is also very expensive, about 400, 500,000 euros, depending on the version. Then of that one, there's also a drop head Coupé, so you can have it as a Coupé or as a convertible as well. And then this very model lineup is all depending on the Rolls-Royce Ghost, that is the sedan version. This one here is the Coupé version called Wraith, and then very new present on the IAA Motor Show, it's the new convertible called Dawn. And they are all kind of the same, especially from the interior. However, the Coupé is also a little bit more expensive than the saloon version. This one is here about 280,000 euros in Germany, and it's the most driver-focused car from Rolls-Royce so far, because they really want to get the people behind the steering wheel directly, and I'll show you later on why this is the case here especially. The car is 5 meters 26 long. That is still very long for a car in general, but relatively short for Rolls-Royce. Let's start with the color of this car, and actually it's possible with the Wraith to pick 2 different colors as a contrast. It's hard to see here because it's both red colors. This one here is called Cherry and the upper one is called Madeira. Madeira from the island in the Atlantic, very beautiful there. You see this is a little bit brighter and the other one is a little bit darker, so you can even individualize your Rolls-Royce, and there are so many endless color combinations. And then there is Emily, or the real name Spirit of Ecstasy. And can you actually steal it? Well, there is this mechanism when you try to touch it, it should actually go down, but I won't test it because I don't want to damage the car. But it's actually quite easy also to demonstrate, because when you close the car, it's also just hidden there, and it's kind of interesting because it flips down. Then when you open the car, it comes back out again. And well, there are kind of very long stories also. What is now the proper name for it, or the official is one Spirit of Ecstasy, and some call it also Emily. And you can also pick different colors. This one is classic silver now. You can also pick gold, or for example also some acrylic glass, and then it's also illuminated. I would probably go for that one. The front remains in this very classic Rolls-Royce style. You see a very steep front grille, and also with the logo. That's all that has been there for ages actually. And I personally would like if they would spice it up meanwhile a little bit, because it really looks kind of old school. Was actually quite new here with the Wraith. The car hasn't been on the market for so long. The headlights are actually slimmer than with the cars before, and that adds to a little bit of the modern look. By the way, nice detail that we also got the Rolls-Royce logo inside the headlights. In the side profile, there could be a little bit more daring, because here, especially in the Coupé, the roofline is falling kind of flat down, and that differentiates it to the saloon, by the way. The alloys, they're actually 20-inch. Doesn't look like it, but you still got a lot of space with your wheels above it, and I think it's quite good because then you don't easily damage those ones. The really dominating factor is here this huge chrome frame, especially in the rear part of the car, and I just think it could have been a little bit slimmer, that the car doesn't look that kind of bulky. By the way, the contrasting colors, you can see them very well now because the sunshine actually brightens up the rear of the car. There you can see it's the brighter red on the upper part and the little bit darker red on the lower part. Which contrast colors would you pick for your Rolls-Royce? Now about the rear, we also got this vintage style here, especially with these kind of taillights. And you really have to like it to go for that one. By the way, the boot, it's a boot here, not a trunk. You see, it's kind of like attached onto the top of it. And this design scheme we also know from the predecessor of the BMW 7 Series, for example, or also from the Mercedes S-Class. I personally don't like it that much. I rather like it when design lines are kind of integrated and you don't have so much that is kind of standing above that. But what's your opinion on that one? I want to know that one in the comments. Let's take a look beneath the hood. Will a Rolls-Royce customer ever open this for maintenance? Definitely not. But probably just to show off to some friends maybe, because the engine cover is very well done. It's a beautiful design, shows how the engine is actually put together beneath it. This is V12, 6.5 liter of displacement and 632 horsepower, so very powerful and also derived from the BMW range, of course. 4.6 seconds from 0 to 100 kilometers or 0 to 60 miles an hour. That's well enough for this car, and I'll also talk more about that one in the driving review. So we're using this key now to open the car. I'll show you it once more. That's the key, and I can open it right here. And by the way, if I hold it, there's also this comfort function for the windows, that you can better get in and out in narrow parking lots, and you can also close the windows with the key. That's quite good. A very massive door handle we got here. And then we got the suicide doors. First of all, they did it because that's kind of signature Rolls-Royce style. And they also argue that you have an easier entry then to the seats. And that's actually true, because you see, you have a lot of space here to get in. But then again, you have to have a lot of space next to the doors, left and right, to really be able to get inside there. First overview of the interior, you see, it's very good to film it also with the suicide doors. It's really classic wood style. There has not always to be wood in here. This is really the root wood we also know from Rolls-Royce, but you can also get modern aluminum elements, for example. Also a very kind of classic style steering wheel. It's quite huge and therefore also not sporty. And you see we also got detailed finish, for example, at the buttons of the steering wheel, for example. And then the seats, well, you see maybe 4 very tall people, they might be a little bit short then, but you can adjust them quite well. You see they are, as also as a tradition, using real animal skin, and but the good thing is with Rolls-Royce, it's all kind of bespoke. The customer is king. So if you want to say, okay, I don't want real animal skin in my Rolls-Royce because I want to combine luxury with sustainability, it's actually no problem if you just tell them, hey, I want the Rolls-Royce with Alcantara seats, for example, and then they'll do it for you. That's totally different than with any other manufacturers, because they really also fulfill this special wishes here. By the way, the most often wish is actually here, the buttons, the initials here, this is Rolls-Royce, but a lot of people go for their own initials in here. For example, I could put in TM here now when I order my Rolls-Royce. That is kind of a very often wish with Rolls-Royce customers. Before I get my feet inside, let me show you this. Very deep, the floor actually, and that is also some kind of comfort feature. Luckily nowadays you don't have to use real stuff from animals here as well. You can also just do it artificially, and it's also very comfortable. And then you see this area here, this is covered actually not with the cloth anymore, because there it has to be durable, because your feet are actually there and then controlling the pads. And now to my favorite feature of this car. And you requested that we also film the car in the basement garage to see the illumination here. And actually this is the top feature. It's optional, yes, this star ceiling. And you can also dim it, but just when the doors are closed, which is not possible because we're filming it right now, then you can dim it and also deactivate it, because maybe when you're going inside a tunnel you might want to deactivate it, but especially when the car is standing still, this is so beautifully done, and you don't really feel them, so they're integrated in the ceiling. So what do you think about that spectacular feature? And one signature feature is the umbrella. It's hidden right here with the really nice mechanism, and there it is, kind of huge actually also. And that's also this kind of bespoke feature, because here with the Rolls-Royce you can also pick the color of your umbrella yourself. In this case it's plain black, and it's actually in both sides of the doors, so you don't get wet when you're in London and get out and it's actually raining. And then let us close the door, because, well, you see, I would be reaching very far out now here, because it's the suicide doors. But actually also, as expected in the Rolls-Royce, there's an electric mechanism to close it. That's actually hidden behind this small window. You can also open the boot here, and then both doors actually from the driver part, and then I have to hold the door for security reasons, hold the door button, then it's also closing. Kind of decadent actually, but it works. Let's continue with the cockpit. One very good aspect for a Coupé is the seatbelt, actually very well accessible, because it's attached to the seat and not far back there. That's actually a quite good thing. And then, as I said earlier, you can actually also go for other materials, but I would definitely go for wood in the Rolls-Royce. Just maybe not this shiny surface. You know, I really prefer this kind of matte wood, which you can also touch very well. And with the open cell, open pore, this one here is of course with a closed side and also shines a little bit. For example, when there's sunshine, a lot of these elements can also reflect the sun. For example, also the door, sorry, the clock here, the big clock, and especially the aluminum elements around it. This can really reflect, and then you got this in your eyes, and that's not actually too good then. What else can we see here? This is the infotainment screen. There's a separate button for it, and then it can also open. Maybe again, there it is. Also slides back very smoothly, and they have really paid attention to that. You see all the way it moves back. Also everything in here, when you get it back and then let it slide again, a very smooth process. And these details, they really have to pay attention to it, because the customers of Rolls-Royce really demand it. I would have made the steering wheel a little bit slimmer, and also when we're going in the driving experience, I would have liked a little bit of kind of direct experience with the steering wheel, although we are in the high-class luxury car. What I like with the color is that everything is in bright color here. You can of course pick any color. I've seen very ugly photos as well where the whole interior was green. Ooh, I would never go for that, but maybe you would, then post me in the comments. I would go for this bright color. Just as I said earlier, I would not take the real animal skin in it. And what is actually very good also with colors is that we got the bright stuff beneath the dashboard, but black on the dashboard. And that's again very important for the reflections, because if you have the bright dashboard, for example, older Porsche Cayenne had that quite often, or Jaguar XK. With the total bright dashboard, you also get a lot of reflections at the inside of the windscreen then, and you can hardly see. The instrument panel in the front of me, it's very flat actually, it doesn't go steep in. That's a little bit irritating if you're not used to it. Very classic instrument. On the left side, by the way, the power reserve, for example. If you think about, oh, can I overtake someone on the motorway still? Then you know how much power reserve the engine still has. Quite unusual, but you know, why not? Then we have shortcut buttons, for example, for a CD player. I'm not sure why they still include a CD player. I wouldn't have done it. And about those buttons, we got them right here. And we also got them at the central control stick right here. I actually like them because, you know, it's fake glass and, well, I like it. But I've also talked to my colleagues and some also don't like it. So what's your opinion on that one? Temperature control, off, soft, medium, high, maximum. And then at the lower part, you can control the temperature, and it's split in half. So you can control the lower and the upper temperature. That's a quite good thing because, for example, for me, I like it colder at the feet and warmer at the upper body. However, what I found quite strange is that when you change the temperature adjust, it's also doing something with the intensity of the vents, and not sure why, but I would prefer that very separately. And at the right side next to it, you can also activate the seat ventilation and the seat heating. Here again in detail how the sliding process works here for the beverage holders, for example. Very nice. And it doesn't get stuck as we've seen once with the Range Rover. Head-up display, by the way, you see it's not really flickering in real life. It's just because of the camera frame rate, and actually offers a good overview, also gives you GPS information. We got the BMW infotainment system here. So, well, it's Emily is in front of this one here, but then it's controlled is the same as in the BMW. You turn it here and then press to activate something. And you also got shortcuts to the menu, GPS, map, options, back. Kind of easy, and also as a driver well controllable. And there it is. For example, you can connect your phone via Bluetooth, pick the radio or the GPS. And it's actually good that they can pick something from the BMW parts bin, because you're also used to the GPS system. Then you can, for example, also pick a new destination here. And well, we've seen other luxury manufacturers who have very old school GPS systems, and that was really like, oh, I'm paying 300,000 euros for a car, and then what is that? But here it's all fine. And we can, for example, also see the consumption, and that's about 18 liters on 100 kilometers, so don't expect less there. I have actually searched for a flaw, which is kind of hard here in the Rolls-Royce interior, but in this middle armrest console, first of all, well, I don't really need this old telephone switch here, and there's also not too much space. But then, you know, about the cover here, it's like when you move it up here, it falls down again automatically, and that's kind of, I don't know. Here it's actually fixed then, but like here, I don't know. Then we can talk ages about this interior. For example, also the window control, everything else, of course, real metal and also high class, although you still want to have this old school look if you buy this car. Then below here we got the controls for the seat, memory seats, and also two kinds of form for the seat massage. And finally, what else? We got the air suspension where you can also pick the niveau, so we can lower the car to load passengers or stuff, and we can also put it higher, for example, if we want more ground clearance, when there's maybe bumpy road or something like that, then you can put also the suspension, the whole car, a little bit higher. If you want to get out of the car, you have to do it manually, and then you need some power because the heavy doors really take some strength to open them. And then let's get in the back of the car. It's not the usual position, it's not a chauffeur car, but Rolls-Royce increasingly has customers who also want to drive the car. And I mean, I can understand it. If you spend 280,000 euros, that's the price for this car, for example, in Germany, for a car, then you really also want to drive it on your own, or wouldn't you? So, and however, you got these kind of emergency seats here. If you want more space, then you have to go for the Ghost, the sedan version of this very car. Just remember the Wraith, the Coupé style, and the Dawn, the new convertible of this car. And well, it does actually work to sit in the back. The car is still 5.26 meters long, so I still got room for my knees, that's quite okay. And also the headspace, that does work. And for example, also a difference to the Bentley GTC or for example, the Mercedes S-Class Coupé. There you have less space. Here it's actually quite okay. So it could partially be still a chauffeur car then. And you also got all the same controls here, for example, the climate controls in double split form. You also got in the front for the rear passengers, and also some beverage holders or space in the middle console. That also works. And you can very well enjoy the star ceiling here. That's very important. I wonder, by the way, why those kind of fake 12-volt power supply covers are really not activated. There's nothing behind it. They are fixed. I can also open the trunk with the key right here, or I can do it here. That's also possible, but I'll do it with the key now. By the way, the sound, how it opens, there you can also hear, that's the BMW process, the BMW kit. It's very interesting. And then it's actually quite huge for, you know, such a luxury car that is not really focused on practicability and goes very deep inside there. I'll show you when I put the suitcase at the very end. So for some suitcases for the airport, absolutely no problem. Now let's ride this V12 6.5 liter. Of course, it's a very heavy car, as I said before, almost 2.5 tons. And so it also feels very heavy when driving. So you can just forget when you think, okay, I got a V12, so I drive sporty. Well, yes, in the front, that does work with 4.6 seconds from 0 to 100 kilometers. That's fast, yes. But for example, when you hammer the brakes, you feel, oh, I have to brake 2.5 tons, and well, that's really a lot. And especially on the motorway, when you get high speeds, then you really realize that. And as soon as you also want to drive corners kind of fast, like here, the steering wheel is, well, kind of loose, so no sporty feeling at all. And it's also not the focus of the car, of course. So you need kind of long steering ways. Also, you see there almost nothing is happening. And with the air suspension, the car is also going to left and right and back again. And that is really all focused on the comfort. So this car is really good when you want to go long ways, well, also on the motorway if you don't go too fast and because it's too dangerous because of the high weight. But you can really relax your calm ride. That should be your main focus when buying this car, because this air suspension is just evening out everything. No matter what is on the road, you always keep on going like on a flying carpet. And well, I think it can't be any more comfortable, but of course it could be way sportier then. So especially thinking of the BMW Corporation, there can never be a question of a BMW 7 Series or this one here, because the cars have totally different focuses. So, and when it gets a little bit narrow on the road, that's also another disadvantage. You always think about, oh, do I touch something on the left or at the right, because the car is also, well, not that good in the visibility, and especially to the rear. Also when you look at the back mirror, then it's just very slim with this very flat rear window, can't hardly see anything. And also to the front, to the left and to the right, yeah, the car is really huge and you do feel that. So this is really a disadvantage when driving such a big car then. The seats, again, I've told you that in the interior review, they are definitely comfortable. Yes, I have experienced more comfortable seats also on the long term, but of course you also have a lot of different variations how you can actually adjust the seat or also use the seat massage while driving. Then, yeah, it's always when you're in corner, you're kind of working around the steering wheel because it's not directly transmitting what you give as an input. So I would like, because also very huge sedans, if you think now about the premium segment, Audi A8, even if they are like 20 or 30 centimeters slower, they can also do that. The steering wheel input is very direct, and I would wish that here, because that has nothing to do with comfort or no comfort. It's just better when you have a better control of the car actually. Then, I mean, when you got to plain roads, it's really, you don't really feel the road. It's really like you're flying on it, and that is very special, of course, about this serial air suspension here. And also when you're facing red traffic lights, you most of the time don't even care, because you're really relaxed in here, and also the sound insulation is, as we expected, very good, so you don't hardly hear anything from the outside. It's really a relaxation zone in here. And as I said earlier, also focus on the driver and the co-driver, because behind me not so many people could sit actually, so I wouldn't go on a long term with 4 people actually. So it's more really like for if you go alone or with 2 guys. Yeah, then for example the sounds the car is making when I turn the indicators now, it's also relatively silent, also not arousing too much attention, just from the sounds the car makes also when you press buttons. I think that fits to the concept. However, now if I want to make a U-turn here, for example, I have to go on not on the very inner lane, but take the lane beside that and then across that one, because I wouldn't be able to do the U-turn otherwise, because the car has also this above this 3 meters of wheelbase, and that's really hard to control then. So just to show you how this air suspension reacts when you go left and right, for example here now, you see that the car is going like woo, woo, woo. That's of course a very great feeling when you're searching this comfort. But of course you shouldn't connect the V12 to sportiness. I think that's the main point here really. So what would you think? Would you like to drive a Rolls-Royce, or would you rather say, oh well, I want to drive something sportier anyway, so I don't really care? Put that one in the comments. I would really be looking forward to that. When controlling the infotainment system, told about that in the interior review as well. It's actually quite good that they orient on this BMW infotainment system, because you can get along with it very well if you know the BMW systems then. And that can also be very well controlled by the driver, because it's not a touchscreen, but you just use the central stick here below then, and that's also no problem in doing something while driving. We also got all of the assistance systems that BMW is currently offering. For example, the adaptive cruise control, which I've tested it on the motorway, is really working flawlessly. I also have a good view on the head-up display. I can activate or deactivate it. Then I would have the GPS information down here that you could change. I can also show you that. So I can activate and deactivate the HUD here. And if I would have GPS info, I would be according here then. The look here on the instruments, it's a little bit, well, you have to get used to it, because it's kind of flat. It doesn't go way in as we used from other cars actually. But so they also decide about the assistance system, because I thought, okay, it's really not a chauffeur car. You should drive this Rolls-Royce on your own. And so we also integrate all these systems here that, for example, keep you on the road, warn you when you getting off the lane, for example, then you get a lane warning. And the adaptive cruise control also works in traffic. I was in huge traffic yesterday, and that did also actually a great job, because I could kind of relax a little bit more, and then the distance to the car in front of me was really kept. Yeah, and I mean, about the engine, of course, for such a heavy car you need a lot of power. Do you really need the V12 with 632 horsepower? Well, something smaller would also have been totally okay. If you want to hear it, how it sounds on the inside and how the performance is, I can now also push the throttle. Yeah, there you hear it. It does have a lot of power, and it sets in after like, yeah, you see, because of the weight of the car, it's not that really this totally explosive acceleration. So it needs like half a second to really set in then. But of course, for such a heavy car, this is still a very impressive performance. Most of the time, however, you won't really need that kind of performance because, as I said earlier, it's all about the luxury and the comfort also in driving. Now to the conclusion of the Rolls-Royce Wraith. I think this trend that more and more customers of Rolls-Royce want to drive the car themselves, I think it's just logical, and I think it's the right strategy also go for the so-called shorter cars. I mean, with over 5 meters, the car is never short, but maybe they will even increase this kind of stuff in the future. I think it would be quite good actually, because you have to remember, it's still a huge car, even if it's the smallest Rolls-Royce, and also while driving, you do have a disadvantage there because it feels kind of bulky when driving. So it would also be cool, for example, Bentley has also made that the car also in some kind of way also feel a little bit sporty. And I would expect that from this one here now in the future, not because I don't really get the point that it's all about the comfort. I've told you that. That's, I think, kind of natural to this kind of brand. But why not also having a rather direct steering or something like that can also help you in the comfortable driving then. Yes, with the air suspension, everything is set on comfort and you really can't argue about that one. Also, I think I could very well imagine that they maybe offer a V8 inside there, because that would also surely be enough. On the interior, everything is very well processed, and I also found it quite good that they use the BMW systems, because they are also good as for the infotainment system. So you got a modern stuff in there as well. Also, especially for this brand, I like it that the customers actually can choose anything they want to, especially from the surface materials. So I would also be happy then if I could order my Rolls-Royce with the Alcantara seats. Yeah, and then about the exterior, you see it's special with this suicide doors. That is really unique to this car and differentiates it from any other on the market. Well, maybe the BMW i3 also got suicide, but just on the rear side then. But it's very special that you also got suicide doors, even if it are just 2 doors actually. Everything else on the exterior is rather in this classic vintage style. There it's really about, do you like it or don't you like it? I'm not so into the vintage design for modern cars. There I think it should be really left on with the really old cars. But what's your opinion on that one? Leave me that in the comments. So, and I want to know, of course, in general, what you think about the car, about the exterior, interior, and also the driving. And would you go for a Rolls-Royce if you had all the money in the world? Also put me that one in the comments. Or what else car would you actually go for? And now let's close these 2 suicide doors again and enjoy some more time with the Rolls-Royce. And meanwhile while you wait on the next review, maybe just browse some other reviews we have already done so far. You also find a playlist from our full reviews always in the video description. Just click that playlist and you will find plenty of other reviews, or just put in the search Autogefühl and then any model you want. I think we got so many hundreds of videos, then you really will find also your desired model. See you next time on Autogefühl with Thomas. Bye. Thanks for watching.